The purpose of this video is to review the TOEFL listening strategies that you learned in this newsletter. There are 7 important questions. Number 1. Why is note-taking important? Question 2. How do I take faster notes? Question 3. How do I create abbreviations and symbols? Question 4. What are some common symbols I can use during my note-taking? Question 5. What are some common abbreviations I can use for my note-taking? Question 6. How do I get the most important points in lectures? And 7. How do speakers indicate important points? All of these questions and the answers to these questions will help you be much better in your TOEFL listening during the test. Let's take a look at question 1. Why is note-taking important to the TOEFL IBT? There's 60 to 90 minutes in the listening section. You'll listen to academic discussions, you'll listen to academic lectures, and you'll also listen to campus-related discussions. Even on the speaking section, you have 4 different speaking tasks, with speaking tasks 3, 4, 5, and 6. And even on the writing section of the TOEFL, you have a listening task that's approximately a few minutes long, which is academic in nature. If you can note take, you will have a better concentration on the lectures, you'll have a greater chance of giving accurate and coherently organized speeches, you'll have a better chance of writing an organized essay within the 20-minute time limit, you will be able to keep track of the main idea and important supporting points of listening passages. Most importantly, if you have good note-taking skills, you're going to get a high score on the TOEFL IBT. Now that we've established that note-taking is one of the keys to getting a high score on the TOEFL IBT, the second question is, how do I take faster notes? Consider this fact. Lectures, academic discussions, and campus-related conversations average between 100 and 150 words a minute. That's how fast these speakers are speaking. However, most people can write only 25 to 35 words a minute. Now, you actually will need to develop a system of note-taking that 1. Allows you to write faster, and 2. Separates the main ideas from unimportant details. In order to take faster notes, do not be distracted by how the speaker delivers the lecture. Listen for key words and phrases. Learn to anticipate what will happen next in a lecture. Use an organized method of note-taking such as the Cornell method. I recommend that you click on the link that I posted on this web page so that you can go and review the different types of note-taking systems, and you can find out which one you think works better for you. Finally, always consider the larger picture of the lecture. For example, how does the idea that you're listening to right now, how does that connect to a previous idea? Or what might be the next idea after the idea you're listening to right now? Considering these kinds of things, it helps you be a better note taker because you know what's going to happen next, or you know what has already happened. The third question to help you take faster notes is, how can I create my own abbreviations and symbols? Use standard math, accounting, and science symbols to help you take notes. Use standard abbreviations and leave out periods. Use only the first syllable of the word that you listen to. Use the entire first syllable and the first letter of the second syllable. To differentiate from various forms of the same word, use the first syllable of the word, an apostrophe, and the ending of the word. Use just enough of the beginning of a word to form a recognizable abbreviation. Omit vowels from the middle of words. Use G for ing. To avoid confusion, spell out short words. Leave out unimportant words. Leave out unnecessary articles, for example, a, and the. Initials can be substituted when the term is used again. For example, if you say the English department fall retreat, the next time you refer to that, you're not going to try to write out all of that. That's ridiculous. You just say EDFR, and then that reminds you of what you just listened to. There's 4 things here. Number 1, do not write down every word you hear, first of all. That's a very bad strategy. Number 2, do not spell out the entire word or the important words you hear. It takes too long to do it. 3, practice creating your own abbreviations and symbols before taking the TOEFL IBT. And then 4, in time, you will learn to quickly capture the main ideas of the lectures to which you listen. Question 4. What are some common symbols I can use when note-taking? On this page, I gave you some symbols for therefore, because, the statement or answer is correct, statement or answer is wrong, the question or is statement correct. I gave you a symbol for is, for example, this or that, or this, that. A symbol for and, plus. I also gave you a symbol that's used to join ideas and replace words or punctuation marks that have been omitted. I also gave you the symbol for ditto, which means that this is the same as the words immediately above the ditto mark, so there's no reason to write something twice if you've already said it, but you need to say it again. I gave you the symbol for does not equal or differs from or is the opposite of, and also you have symbols for is, are, have, has, or equals. And finally, the symbols for leads to, results in, or causes. Now, it's important to practice using symbols when listening to practice TOEFL IBT lectures. Remember what I said earlier. The average speaker on the TOEFL can speak more than 100 words a minute. The average note taker can only catch about 25 of those words in a minute. So you have to be able to abbreviate so that you can capture more of the ideas that you're listening to. Now, if you don't like my symbols, that's fine. Create your own. You're the only one who needs to understand what the symbols means. And most importantly, use symbols to help express relationships of ideas in the listening passages. You will be asked about what these relationships are, so you need to try to express in your notes how certain ideas of a lecture are related to other parts of a lecture. Question 5 are what are some common abbreviations I can use when note-taking? So I gave you a list. I gave you some abbreviations, for example, that is, etc., compare, namely, approximately, note, 19th century, for example, approximately, department, difficult, excluding, government, importance or important, including, information, language, limited, maximum, minimum, first, second, third, question, answer, number, page, pages, possible, possibly, probable, probably, problems, with reference to or concerning, reference, students, though, through, very, something, and someone. Now these are actually pretty common abbreviations. Now for you, you're trying to abbreviate information during your note-taking so that you can get things down faster and you can get the most important things you're listening to. Now there's even another reason why you should use common abbreviations when you're note-taking. If you go to a university, if you want to get a graduate degree or undergraduate degree at American University, many professors and professional people will use abbreviations during class lectures or business presentations. They will assume when they write the symbol GOV apostrophe T, they will automatically assume that you know that that means government. So it's something that you can expect when you get into your university classes. Like you, professors don't want to waste all their time writing the complete word on the board, and it's very common for them to shorten or write reduced versions of the words that they're trying to get on the board. Just a thought. The 6th question is, how do I determine what is most important in a lecture? This is a good question, because when you're listening on the TOEFL test, your point is to not get down all the information. You're not trying to remember everything. You're trying to remember the most important ideas in that lecture, in that conversation. So here's some things that you want to pay attention to. There are certain signals that speakers will do or say which helps you know that an important idea is about to come. For example, one speaker may ask another speaker for an explanation. For example, you might hear on a TOEFL test the first speaker goes, "So it's important that we understand what photosynthesis means." And then the second speaker goes, "Photosynthesis? What is that? What does that mean?" Now obviously, if one speaker is asking the other speaker for an explanation, you're going to be asked a question about that. Now another thing that you want to pay attention to is when one speaker either agrees or disagrees with another speaker's statement. So if the speaker disagrees, what is the reason that the speaker gives that disagrees with the statement? That's probably pretty important in terms of your note-taking. So either agree or disagree. Now other important signals are one speaker may add important details. A speaker may present contradictory information. So by listening for these signals in these conversations or lectures, it helps you focus on what is most important. And of course, the most important things in the lecture, that's what you're going to be writing down in your notes. Our final question concerning listening and note-taking is this: how do speakers in a lecture indicate an important point? How about this? Louder and slower speech. It's very common for professors to slow down and speak louder when they want to emphasize something, and when they're doing that, it means the information that comes after that is very important. Another thing that speakers will do, it's longer pauses. They have a longer pause from one idea to another. Let me give you an example. A professor may say, "Okay, now let's talk about the different causes of the Civil War." First of all, so just by the nature of that pause, and then first of all, that lets you know that the idea that comes after that's going to be very important, so you want to pay attention to that. There are also certain phrases or sentences that a speaker may use to emphasize an important point. If a speaker says, "I want to point out blah blah blah," it means that's going to be an important idea. If the speaker says, "The most important point I want to make here is," that's obviously also very, very important for you. Now how about changing topics? It's very common in listening passage on the TOEFL IBT for the speaker to actually change from one idea to a new idea. The speaker may say, "I want to go on to blah 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 whatever." The speaker may say, "The next important thing to consider is something else that you might hear in a listening passage. You might even hear something like this: "In addition to." Let me give you an idea. Let's say that the professor wants to transition from 2 points. Let's say the first point is flooding, and how flooding is a damaging thing to certain cities. And then let's say we're going to go on to hurricanes. So the professor might say something like this: "In addition to flooding, hurricanes are also problems which affect cities in coastal lying communities." So by using that transition word, the professor is actually able to shift from one idea to a new idea. And whenever there's a change, you need to pay attention. I hope that these listening tips, particularly as it relate to note-taking, will help you prepare better for the TOEFL test. So I hope you've enjoyed this information. Good luck.